Whoa, look at this. I'm live right now. I'm live. All right, everybody, let me know if you can hear me because I'm not used to doing ESVN like this. But we've got no Bradley. Bradley's on his honeymoon. I said this today on the Majority Report, but we are going to do a longer show with the help of the wonderful producer Matt Leck on Thursday, where I'll give a little bit more of a playoff preview. But for now, at least, this is what you guys are going to get. So I'm going to let some people trickle in. We'll talk a little bit about the results from yesterday, the notable ones, and as well as some of the firings that we're seeing in the NFL. And there we go Bills. We got some people in the chat. See, this is the benefit of when Bradley's out. I get to actually read the live chat, and I'll respond to some of what you guys had to say. So let's start off here. The final game of the evening last night, that was the Buffalo Bills defeating the Miami Dolphins and winning the AFC East for the fourth time in a row. Now, I mean, I'm happy about this result because if the Dolphins had won, that would have meant that the Bills were the 7 seed and we were going to see them once again in the playoffs, the same exact game, the same exact setting, the final week, or the first week of the playoffs. And I just wasn't that into that. This is a little bit of a hot take, but I'm not necessarily somebody who loves divisional matchups in the playoffs right off the bat because it's the third time that these teams are playing each other. They know each other so well. The audience knows the matchup so well. And it creates like a little bit more familiarity when I get excited about these high-end matchups and how this team's going to tackle this other team because they maybe didn't face them in the regular season. That's the kind of stuff that I usually like when there are divisional matchups a little later in the playoffs and then the emotions are heightened. So right to start off, Dolphins-Bills again would have been a little bit lackluster, but now we have some incredible matchups coming up for NFL weekend. I mean, the schedule is just amazing here. Let's take a look. Texans at Browns. Now, that will be the first game. The Texans won the AFC South. I will talk about that Bills game in a second, but this is just what we have. On Saturday, it's going to be Browns-Texans in Houston. Would have been really interesting if Deshaun Watson had been playing, but still really an exciting matchup regardless because of the interaction between these two teams and the trade market as it relates to Deshaun Watson, and the fact that CJ Stroud is one of the hottest quarterbacks in football and seemingly is unstoppable with his right arm and the pinpoint accuracy that he possesses. But the team is very young, and the Browns defense is magical in that way. They are coming off a week where they were able to actually rest their starters, rest Joe Flacco, get healthy, get prepared. The Texans essentially played a playoff game against the Colts in a win-and-in scenario on Saturday. And so that creates a little bit of tension. I'm leaning towards Browns at this point, but not exactly sure. Then Dolphins at Chiefs. This is what we get for the Dolphins not winning the division. The Dolphins get to go to Kansas City and play the Chiefs. Tyreek Hill returns to Kansas City in a playoff matchup. Now, I trend towards the Chiefs in that scenario because of how poorly the Dolphins play in the cold, but the Chiefs have been playing quite terribly and just have not been the same on offense. And if Vic Fangio is able to get creative, it could be a bit of a fun matchup. And again, the Tyreek Hill of it all is really exciting. Steelers at Bills. The Bills are kind of a better version of what the Steelers provide, with obviously better quarterback play, but they're both kind of gritty teams that don't necessarily win pretty all the time. But the difference is that the Bills have Josh Allen, who is a game changer. And that is the first Sunday game. Then we get Packers at Cowboys. Mike McCarthy versus old team, another great storyline, and one of the hotter offenses in football against a Cowboys defense that has been inconsistent. Now the Cowboys really beat up on the Commanders, but I don't know how much the Commanders had to play for. we'll see. The Cowboys, again, very difficult to beat at home, but you like that storyline element, so it worked out quite well. And then, of course, in terms of storylines, it doesn't get better. Then the Rams at the Lions. Matthew Stafford returns to Detroit with the team he won the Super Bowl for. Jared Goff gets to get revenge on his old play caller who threw him away in the trash and traded him away because they wanted a more elite quarterback at that position. The Rams' passing attack is as hot as any passing attack in football when Stafford's playing, and Puka Nacua just broke that rookie record. But the Lions are a really complete offense as well. Can the Rams defense slow the Lions down? I mean, I think that is going to be key to that matchup. And then Eagles and Bucks, where, if you saw this matchup on paper 5 weeks ago, you would have said, oh, the Eagles are going to win by 10 minimum. But the Eagles have lost 5 out of their last 6. They just are seemingly flailing, and it's completely inexcusable given the talent that they have on that team. I know the secondary is aging. I know the linebacking core is not good after they had all those free agent losses, but it still should be performing much better than this. Not one of the worst teams in football given that defensive line and given where they were at last year. So, I don't know. Lots of questions, I would say, about Nick Sirianni and what he's doing with that team. It just seems like when, I know the Colts missed the playoffs, but damn does Shane Steichen know what he's doing on the offensive side of the ball. And I mocked Jonathan Gannon as much as anybody, but he seemed to have held that defense together. And now Matt Patricia has been the replacement at defensive coordinator in season, and he's seemingly worse than Sean Desai. So I'm pretty sure I'm saying Sean Desai's name right. You guys can correct me in the chat. That's what it's for. Regardless, that is there we go. I did say it right. That is what we have coming up for the playoff matchup. So I much prefer those scenarios to what would have happened, I would say, if the Dolphins won the division. All right, but let's get into the results from yesterday. So, the Bills won a gritty game, and for a while it looked like the Bills were not able to get anything going on offense. They had that kick return for a touchdown, which really sparked the team. And Josh Allen had some turnovers. The first interception in the end zone was not good whatsoever. The second one was actually a great play because it was on 4th down, and it was a punt where they added 15, 20 yards to field position for the Dolphins, which, it'll go down on the stat sheet as an interception, but it was definitely a really good play. The back-breaking interception was at the end when I thought that the Bills or the Dolphins might go down and tie the game, was the interception that was thrown by Tua. Though he threw 2 interceptions in that game, there were 2 red zone turnovers by each team. So there was some here we go. Lonzetta says Allen is a turnover machine. They have been very lucky the past 3 weeks. I disagree. I mean, he definitely commits turnovers, but he's more old school in quarterback play like that. He takes a ton of risks, and it largely benefits the team because without his incredible ability to stretch the field and take these risks, the Bills' offense would not be what it is. The Dolphins' offense has so much to offer. The Bills have very little to offer, and outside of what Josh Allen provides. And so he does tend to make mistakes, and he can get a little bit too hair on fire, but without his elite ability, I just really don't think the Bills would be even close to where they are. They definitely would not be a playoff team. Deontay Hardy had that punt return, tied things up, and then in the end, Josh Allen had the final touchdown, the final say, with a touchdown to Dawson Knox, who is one of the 2 tight ends that they have there. They're quite solid, including their rookie as well, who's emerging as a bit of a star. So, the Bills, I don't think they're winning the Super Bowl this year. I can't say that, given their level of performance. But they have shown toughness and have shown, I think, that Sean McDermott, despite being very, very much on the hot seat, is not going anywhere after this year, and I've always contended that Sean McDermott is not the ideal coach, I think, when you have a quarterback like Josh Allen, but it's much more of a talent thing for the Bills than anything at all. So I don't think they're going to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. I think the Ravens really... God, I like the Browns' chances more than I like the Bills and the Chiefs at this point, which is crazy to say, but in terms of team football, the Ravens and the Browns are playing the best in the AFC. Then when we turn to the NFC, obviously the 49ers are the everybody's pick as well, and they'll have home field advantage, which is huge, obviously, if the Cowboys are coming into town. But, if the Lions can just get it together a little bit more on defense, I do think that they can be an exciting team. So that's, my thoughts there. I was really sad to see the Jaguars crumble like that. There's going to be questions about whether or not you should pay Trevor Lawrence a top market contract. Look, Justin Herbert money, it's not going to be that, because the next guy seemingly gets paid more than the guy before him. That's kind of how these contracts work, with the cap going up and up, and Trevor Lawrence should get as much money as the market dictates. But Callie Bear says Herbert is better than Lawrence. I would probably take Justin Herbert over Trevor Lawrence if you were to ask me. But do I think Trevor Lawrence is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL? I do. Do I think he's top 5? I do not. And so that's going to be a question for the contract. They're going to extend him. He was playing really hurt because that offensive line down there in Jacksonville is just not getting it done. And they had some departures in the offseason. They did not patch up those holes well, and that should be the number one priority, I would think, for the Jaguars heading into the draft, is just shoring up that line. And then the defense just was not effective at really stopping the run or rushing the passer. Javon Walker has shown flashes but has not been consistent, and clearly it seems like they whiffed a little bit with Aiden Hutchinson having much more of a presence in Detroit, although, hey, he gets to be home, and I'm sure that was a situation he was more happy to be a part of. But I guess the thing that sticks out to me is, yes, there's some personnel issues on the offensive line, and then on defense. Doug Peterson, I did not remember him being this uncreative as an offensive coordinator or as an offensive mind. There isn't a lot of motion. There aren't a lot of plays in the Jaguars' offense that make me say, wow, that make me say, oh, that's interesting. Oh, they exploited this, or they did something new here. Even the way that Peterson was using ATN was kind of uninspired given his athletic ability, and then they just kind of really struggled towards the end of the year to run the football. They didn't deserve really to be in the playoffs based on how they played in the final few weeks, and unlike the Eagles, they didn't have the capital to carry them over the top. The Texans were the more deserving team, and they ended up winning the AFC South, facing off against the Colts, who also played admirably, but again, they lost their starting quarterback, and they weren't able to get over the hump. I'm excited to see what CJ Stroud has to do in the playoffs. He's so ice cold. Like, I would not be shocked if they end up beating the Browns. I think the Browns are the better team overall, but damn, CJ Stroud's already a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I mean, who would you take over him at this point? I would take him after 1 year. Maybe this is crazy. I would take him over Trevor Lawrence. I might take him over Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has one of the strongest arms in the NFL, but CJ Stroud has more variety in his passing, and the touch on his footballs are just, it's like he's been a veteran in this league for so many years. And the Texans just are playing great team football. I saw Will Anderson was playing through a high ankle sprain, and I think he's probably going to be Defensive Player of the Year, or Defensive Rookie of the Year, I should say. That's not shocking, especially in a field where, there hasn't been a big rookie standout. The Texans could potentially have, like the Jets did last year, under the tutelage of another defensive coordinator from the 49ers, have offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year. That's not crazy. CJ is going to win offensive rookie of the year, but Will Anderson, I don't know what the betting lines are looking like right now, but that's who I would imagine is the favorite. Arthur Smith, quick turn here, fired at like 12:01 a.m. last night by the Atlanta Falcons. I'm thrilled with this move. I thought the Falcons might get a little cute with it and say, okay, well, Arthur Smith didn't really have a quarterback to work with. First of all, it was Arthur Smith's fault. He insisted that they were going to be able to win games with Desmond Ridder at the helm. And that was not the case. It seemed very, very clear going into the season that Desmond Ridder just is not a high-level football thrower. And that's kind of important as a quarterback, even though it seems like, for some reason, Arthur Smith doesn't value it. Like, he didn't value it with Marcus Mariota, who is not a high-level thrower, but a decent athlete. And Desmond Ridder was like a poor man's version of Marcus Mariota. And we all saw how that experiment worked out in Atlanta as well. So it just is a bit of an odd philosophy. That's the thing that should worry you, or should have worried you, and thankfully he's gone. If you were a Falcons fan and Arthur Blank decided to keep Arthur Smith on as the head coach, which is just that the philosophy seems wrong. Like, it just does not seem to be something you can build sustainable success on, which is like having all of these incredible skill position players, an offensive line that can block, a running game, and then the quarterback that can move and do what he needs to do with his feet and then hit the open guy. No, you need a little bit more competent play. And when you see, like, the damn Buccaneers winning the division by getting a guy in Baker Mayfield for $4 million a year on a one-year deal, you have to ask yourself, like, how is this all we could do at the quarterback position? Could we not do any better? Could we have not even tried for a Jacoby Brissett or a bridge starter that could have given you a little bit more hope? And then it was just like the lack of utilization of the talent on that offense. If there was real synchronicity between GM and coaching philosophy, Bijan Robinson, who, of course, now he goes off last game once the fantasy playoffs are over, but like, Bijan Robinson would have been utilized more. The complete underutilization of Kyle Pitts, that falls on the head coach. I like what Terry Fontenot has done largely with the team. I mean, there's a lot of great pieces on defense for them to be. They were an above average defense this year, is my understanding. Like, for them to be even better going forward if they didn't have so much pressure on them as a defense. So just some of the back-breaking turnovers from Desmond Ridder. And then in the end, of course, Arthur Smith getting upset at Dennis Allen for that play. Look, like, I get it. It looked like a kneel-down formation. It's a little bit of a cheap shot to get a touchdown in that instance, but apparently there was a miscommunication between Allen and the team, which really wanted to get, I think it was Jamal Williams, a touchdown. So they did that, and he was mad. But what a way for Arthur Smith to go out, complaining about a blow-up loss having 7 more points on it versus maybe being a little bit more humble about the blowout loss that would have happened regardless of that touchdown and if it was just a kneel down. But, that's the guy that went into coaching. And look, Nepo babies can be talented in their own right for sure. His dad, I think it was former, it was Home Depot or FedEx or Lowe's or something CEO. You guys can mention it to me in the live chat. Who went into coaching and FedEx, there we go. Who went into coaching and had some success, but perhaps he's better as a run-first offensive coordinator than as someone who's going to be a leader of men who can utilize the talent at his disposal. Scott Fitterer was fired in Carolina. That's another piece of news. The general manager seems like a very long time coming, although at the same time, no one is going to want this job. I know that David Tepper, the big asshole in professional sports right now, the guy that was fined $300,000 despite being worth billions for throwing a drink on a fan the other day, the billionaire crybaby bitch, he thinks he can throw money at the problem and hire anybody by paying above market rate contracts. This is what he did in order to pry Matt Rule away from the Giants, from even interviewing with the Giants at the time. He just paid him a ton more money than was even being offered at that time. He thinks he can solve it all with money, and that football people are going to just come to his organization, despite the fact that they don't even have a first-round pick, the first overall pick this year, because of his meddling. He thinks he'll just be able to pay them, and they'll start come and work for him. And that's not necessarily going to be the case. Football people are going to make certain career decisions because, yes, the money is good, but it's not like the money is everything unless you're paying an insane amount more than other people, and maybe that's the case. All of this is shrouded in secrecy. But these football folks have to think about what their legacy is going to be. Like, if they get fired from this one shot that they have as a general manager, it's probably not happening again. A great majority of these head coaches don't get a second opportunity. Did you just say Wink Martindale just stepped down? That's a huge mistake. I'm looking that up now. Wink Martindale just stepped down from the Giants. Wow. Yeah, that's it seems like he really just didn't want to work for Dable anymore. That's a big loss. That's a big loss. And I think Dable is a fiery, difficult person in many ways. He is a more relatable coach, but then say a Belichick, but he still comes from that tree. And Wink Martindale probably got a little bit sick of having to carry that defense amidst the Giants' offensive woes, and then still getting an earful from the offensive head coach about it at that time. Wink's the man. He'll have success no matter where he goes, but that is a huge disappointment for me, because obviously I really appreciated what he did with the defense this year. The Giants did end on a high note, though. Good for them. They only dropped one spot in the draft from 5 to 6 in order to finally start to actually defeat the Philadelphia Eagles, who have had the Giants' number in recent years. And even when the Giants were winning Super Bowls, the Eagles were incredibly successful against the Giants as well. So that felt good to beat the Eagles. But I'm confused a little bit about the direction of where the team is going to go. If Mara is going to give Shane and Dable the ability to go get their guy in the draft, to trade up with the Bears, who seem to be shopping that first overall pick. If that stands, who knows? When they already extended Daniel Jones, who will have one more year of guaranteed money, and then basically after that, the Giants are able to very easily get out of that contract. I do think it's a matter of time until the Giants draft their own quarterback to get Dable to have a player on a rookie contract that he can work with and coach up from the get-go. But will they be able to do that in this draft? I don't know. I mean, look, I'm high on Michael Penix, who will be playing in the national championship game tonight, and he won't likely be taken, I don't know, first or second overall, which could potentially give the Giants an opportunity. But Brian Dable expect Wink and Kafka back. No, Lanzetta, it's just announced from Ian Rappaport literally 5 minutes ago that Wink and Martindale is leaving the team. Speaking of that national championship game tonight, I think I'm rooting for Washington, but I think it's going to be fought within in the trenches, that team or that game. And unfortunately, I got to go with Michigan to win that game. And then for Harbaugh to ride off into the sunset and go coach the Chargers or something like that. What else do we have here? Oh yeah, the dang Commanders fired their GM and Ron Rivera, which they needed to do. That was like the most expected thing ever. I don't even really have much commentary on it, so it just was expected. I went through the playoff field there. Yeah, I mean, that's really all I have for you, folks. Cowboys got the number 2 seed. They looked amazing. The Steelers, I mentioned they somehow got into the playoffs. I can't believe it. The Bucks, good for Baker Mayfield. The Bill Belichick era potentially ending with a whimper, with the Jets beating the Patriots, which never seems to happen in New England. I was not expecting that. Good to see Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill kind of end their Tennessee Titans era on that note. The Packers beat the Bears at home. Few missed field goals. It was a frustrating game for someone who bet the over, which did not pan out. But the Packers defense finally kind of showed up to play, and you know I really do think that that Jordan Love versus Dak Prescott, those are 2 quarterbacks that are playing hot right now, and that'll be really exciting to see. The Chiefs ended up beating the Chargers by 1 point. Blaine Gabbert sealing the game with a rush of his own. The Rams were able to lock up the 6th seed by beating the 49ers. Sam Darnold and the backups don't really know what else to glean from that. Some interesting news coming out of Denver, where teammates are seemingly unhappy about the move to Jarrett Stidham. I was not expecting that. I thought Jarrett Stidham would look a little bit better, because he looked better with the Raiders last year than in his kind of 2-game audition than he did with the Broncos. But that was a bit of an uninspired performance. The Cardinals made it super, super tough on the Seahawks. The Seahawks, the Seahawks ended up winning that game. I was surprised by that. Seahawks-Cardinals, just by 1 point. But they still ended up missing the playoffs regardless. They realized probably at some point in the middle of the game that they weren't going to make it to the playoffs, and still ended up winning. So that's really all I've got for you. Those are the games. We will be back with you on Thursday, where I will get Bradley's pick from his honeymoon in an undisclosed location, and Matt will be with us. We might talk some basketball, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. Thanks for working with us while Bradley's away on his honeymoon, and we will see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.